play-by-play broadcaster and Chicago Bulls play-by-play man, joins us for his weekly visit going around the world of sports. How are you, Adam?
Doing well, my friend. Good to start off a Friday with that.
Great. Let's start off with college football. FBS, we had two games involving Alabama teams last night. UAB hosted Central Arkansas 45-35, and South Alabama made the short trip from Mobile to Hattiesburg and surprised Southern Miss 32-21. Fans were in attendance for both games. The majority of them seem to be wearing masks. Not everybody, but the stadiums were 20-25% full. But we got through those first two games. It was good to have it back, and I think we'll see, I guess, in terms of future testing with the players. But all in all, first night of FBS action seemed to come off pretty well. Your reaction?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about a little bit about it last week, right, Gary? We went through some good information from medical experts that are involved in getting football back, and again, you can have your debates on the opinions of that. Medical experts can have those debates. That's fine. You're trying to make this work as best as possible. It felt pretty normal, right? I mean, even I understand that it's jarring. We talked about this when we were getting ready for the baseball season, right? Like, I know it's going to be a little bit jarring at times to people. I know it's not going to look or maybe sound exactly how we've come to know it to look and sound, but it's there. It's in front of us. We're figuring out ways to make this work, and everybody's comfort level is going to be a little bit different with the images that they see. But it felt fairly normal. It felt like a college football Thursday. Now, again, it doesn't have the same weight, the depth that we're used to, because this would be typically the opening Thursday of the college football season. We would have some big, massive game going on. Last couple of years, we've had a good ACC or maybe even a Big Ten game to watch on a Thursday night to open the season. I was lucky enough to be on Thursday night last year to open the year. So, usually you'd be doing a Power 5 game, but it's still football. It felt fairly normal considering our own circumstances, and it was nice to see. Good in the lead up as well, Gary, right? Testing had gone through. I think no positive tests on for the UAB game on either team, so that was a good sign. So far, so good. Let's hope that this continues. We're going to get more games, more teams around the country. Some fans are going to be involved in some of these games. So, hopefully everything works out all right. But it was a comfort to see something that looked familiar to all of us last night. And the only problem I had was seeing Frank Gore Jr. on TV, because it just made me feel that much older, and I feel like I'm not the only one who felt that way.
I think everybody did. That was wild. You're based in Chicago. Let's. I want to ask you about the Big Ten. I mean, this is just it's a hot topic with whether or not they're going to try to play in the fall, and President Trump getting involved and having a phone conversation with Kevin Warren and just flat out coming out and saying, I think they need to play. You've got some medical experts are saying no way. I don't know where the Big Ten presidents fall on this. I've seen some reports that they now have the votes to play. You're there in Chicago. I know you follow it really closely. What's the latest? What do you think in regards to the Big Ten? Are they going to try to push it up and play in October, or do you think that's more of just a long shot media topic?
I think a lot of these have become long shot media topics, whether they want to play or have evidence that they shouldn't play. The 30 to 35%, myocarditis report that came out yesterday was scary. Maybe it was 2 days ago. That was scary. Then that seemingly was corrected, and now everybody who was all in on one side of that argument is now backing off of it, and everybody who was on the opposite side is championing it. Like, it's hard, man. It's hard to know what to follow. It's hard to know what the best information is, and this is taking away what you might feel about particular writers or whatever. Like, I get that certain writers feel like they're doom and gloom writers. They're basing everything off of what they've learned. Everybody, there are other writers that are basing, their articles and what they put out there based on what they've learned, which is more positive. I'm all for seeing all the sides of this, but what's tough for us, and I consider myself a fan now of college football rather than necessarily, I'm not broadcasting it for the time being. For me, it's more about the fandom and the appreciation I have for the sport. I don't know what to think, and it's hard for me to contextualize this. And I've been in it for a long time, Gary, and you've been in it for a long time, and I'm sure you're feeling the same way when you read these reports. And there's just so much cognitive dissonance with the information that we're being given. And us as fans, first off, we don't know anything. All right, let's be clear. Like, we don't know as much as the people who are sourced for this.
That's right.
And we don't know as much as the people who are writing these articles. Now, you may choose which one you like more based on what the narrative is. That's fine. We all have a tendency to do that. What's frustrating is not having a clear voice from the Big Ten continuously trying to keep us updated. And I know maybe it's not worth it to Kevin Warren, the people in the Big Ten office, to give us this information or to make statements on a more consistent basis. Maybe it's not worth it because then you're getting into the muck of a lot of this stuff. And that's where a lot of us are in the trenches fighting away based on the sides that we're on. But the lack of transparency, and we've said this over and over again, Gary, if you're not going to be transparent, you're going to give a lot of people, you're not giving people reason to give you the benefit of the doubt. And that's what's difficult for the conference. Maybe they're unaware. Maybe they're aware of the situation they're putting themselves in. But for us as consumers of the sport who want the best for the athletes involved, if they do want to play, we want them to, but we want them to do it safely. They have these same concerns. So if they're not going to get this same level of transparency that some other conferences are willing to give, and I'm not saying everybody's being completely forthright with all the information, but we're getting a lot more information from other places and a little bit more transparency from other places. That to me is what's kind of driven the frustration of all of this. So it's hard for me to gauge whether October 10th is a viable date right now. It's hard for me to gauge that, and I think it is for a lot of us. Even for those of us who consider ourselves fairly well informed, it's hard to gauge anything right now. Talking college football, going around the world of sports with Fox Sports play-by-play broadcaster Adam Amin. The ACC media vote is out, and I'm just blown away by how dominant Clemson has become in that conference under Dabo Swinney. They got 132 of 134 first-place votes in that conference. The other two went to Notre Dame, which is not even a full-time member. I mean, what a juggernaut that Dabo has put together there at Clemson. That's unbelievable. Even in the SEC, when Alabama was going through their run, you'd have, 15, 20, 25 votes for somebody else to win the conference, but 132 out of 134, Adam? I mean, but this is the excellence that you've come to expect from Clemson at this point, and again, we've also come into the ACC the last few years with mixed results, right? We've seen rises and falls. We've seen North Carolina rise in the mid 2010s, take a pretty drastic turn, and then really improve significantly last year. Pitt has been a representative of the Coastal. The Coastal has had 7 different champions the last 7 years. Everybody's won the Coastal at one point in this last 7-year stretch. And, they're great stories to track, but the story seems to be the same once they get to ACC championship time. And I don't know how this is going to work with Notre Dame in there for a year. Could they certainly give Clemson a run for its money? I mean, based on pedigree and track record, sure. To have a real opportunity to maybe play in an ACC championship game in December, that'd be fascinating to watch. I certainly am intrigued, but this is what happens. Success begets more success in college football. And as much as this sport can be cyclical based on recruiting in general, I still feel like if you can kind of cut away from the cycle and you build your own machine, I think you guys saw that in Tuscaloosa. And granted, very different in the SEC, and I think you're alluding to this, Gary, just the quality of other programs and the elevation of teams like Texas A&M and Missouri in their time in the SEC, where they've been competitive for division championships. Missouri certainly in the East. There's a little bit more depth. That's how we have to perceive these conferences. The SEC has been perceived as superior for that reason, with the level of depth they have. The ACC, on the other hand, it's been far more cyclical, except for Clemson, who's kind of broken out of this chain of command. And to see what they've built, it's you guys can appreciate it about as well as anybody in the country in Tuscaloosa. I'm sure you guys have an appreciation for what you're seeing, because it is that level of dominance that Alabama was feeling right around the turn of the decade last.
It really is.
2009, 2010, yeah.
Adam, speaking of the Crimson Tide, preparations continue here for the upcoming season and seem to be going pretty well. Alabama's not the most transparent program, as you know, with anything, and COVID testing falling into that category as well. I know they've had some players sit out, but they aren't really talking much about it. But on Monday, Nick Saban led a march for unity. The football players and other athletes joining in behind him from the Malmore Athletic Complex to historic Foster Auditorium, the scene of the famous George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door back in the 60s. And Coach Saban spoke. Several of the players did as well, speaking out against social injustice. And then Wednesday following practice, when Coach Saban met with reporters via Zoom call, he was asked about some pushback and some criticism that he received on social media. And it was typical Nick Saban, answering like only he can. I want to play it for you, Adam. Take a listen to this. Go ahead, JR.
Look, I don't have an opinion about everybody else's opinion. I don't have an opinion about, we try to do the right things. We try to provide positive leadership for our players. Like I said, on Monday, we're trying to elevate our players' chances of having success in their life through their personal development, academic support so they can graduate and develop a career, and what kind of career they can develop as a football player. But a part of that is also providing leadership to elevate people around them by using their platform in a positive way. So, and as I said earlier, I'm pleased with the way that happened, and that's that.
His ability to have thoughtful answers when hit with these questions, but I don't have an opinion on other people's opinions. I thought Adam was classic.
Hang that quote up in the Louvre, man. That's that is classic Saban in a whole new context. And listen, it is a big deal, and to some people it may not be, and that is okay. That is okay if it's not a big deal to you. To me, that's a big deal. When the highest paid employee in the state, when one of the most powerful and most influential people in the state of Alabama does something like this, it behooves us to listen. And, it's certainly appreciated by, I would imagine, his players, the parents of his players. When you go into locker rooms, and I've had discussions with Mac Brown about this and other college coaches, but Mac in particular, when you go into the living room of a young man, regardless of his background, you have to look his parents in the eye and say, I am going to take care of your son. And, I think sometimes that human element of it gets lost in the shuffle, and that's what Nick is showing right now. I think it's the human element of a lifetime of coaching and of mentoring. And, that means a lot, probably more than the championships themselves to a lot of these coaches. Not to say that those championships don't mean anything. Obviously, we wouldn't have Nick Saban we wouldn't hold him in the regard that we do if not for the success that he has put together as a head coach. So you cannot disregard success on the field. But there's also a luxury for guys like, say, Nick Saban, Mac Brown. There is a luxury in a couple of things. They've both had success. They both won a national championship, multiple for Nick. And they're at the age and at the point of their careers where, frankly, Gary, they don't have to care about anybody's opinion. Mm-hmm. And they're in it. And this is the reason I firmly believe Mac went back into coaching. It's the reason I firmly believe Nick is going to stick around for a little longer. Their devotion and dedication to the mentorship of young people matters to them. And I think that was really on display. And again, it's easier for them than it is for a 40-year-old coach who's in his second year on, as an FBS head coach. It's easier for Nick Saban and Mac Brown than it might be for a 50-year-old head coach who's been at the same program for the last 10 years, but hasn't had the same level of success as they've had. They may not have that level of influence. So it's fascinating to me to watch how these powerful people, these head coaches in college football are powerful people, when it comes to their individual states. It's fascinating to me to watch how these people use these platforms. We talk about how athletes use them. I'm as fascinated with how the coaches use them, and it was it was an incredible thing to watch. Just the images from what we saw during those marches. Very, very, very stark images, and ones that I imagine will have some lasting effect.
The NFL season's just 6 days away. I know it's probably not sneaking up on you because you're preparing to broadcast games for Fox, but to me, with no preseason games and limited coverage at training camps because of COVID, I'm sitting here thinking, next Thursday night, we got a football game and a good one between the Texans and the Chiefs. NFL football's upon us.
I got a lot of emails that are telling me the same thing, my friend. We got a lot of emails coming in. We're getting ready for travel, getting ready to talk with Matt Ryan or Russell Wilson via Zoom calls. It's going to be a new normal for a lot of people and a completely new normal for me. Having shifted over to the TV side for the NFL this year. It's going to be incredible. I'm thoroughly excited for it, but when we're doing all these conversations, we're having all these conversations with people from the league, people on our football crew, and then you look up and it's already September 4th, and you go, "Oh wow, we have a game on September the 13th." Gary, it's like we're less than a week away from traveling, less than a week away from the first game of the year. It is nuts, and I agree. I do feel like it has snuck up. Even for us who are preparing, like it has snuck up in a way that I've covered this league for 9 years. It's never felt like this. And obviously this entire year is unprecedented. I'm well aware of that, but just that feeling that you and I kind of feel every year. And I imagine a lot of your listeners feel the same way. Like we're just, it's the ramp up into it. Oh, hey, training camp started in July. Oh yeah. Hey, we got preseason game this week. Oh yeah. Hey, I saw this guy sign with this team. Hey, my fantasy draft's coming up this weekend. Who should I talk about? And like all of that has in a snap just caught up to us. And that's it is nuts, Gary, but I'm thankful that the NFL's back. I think the country is looking forward to watching pro football again. It was an incredible Super Bowl. We're going to get to see the reigning champions out of the gate. I think it's something that a lot of us have been really anticipating, even though it's going to surprise us with how quickly it's come upon us. I still think it's something that a lot of us have been waiting a long time for, and I'm happy that we're looking like we're going to have a chance to enjoy that all together.
So you get Seahawks-Falcons as your first game assignment?
Coming to Atlanta, yes, sir.
Good one. Hey, I want to ask you about Cam. I am not surprised he's named the starter, but Belichick's glowing praise earlier this week of Cam, it's kind of unusual for him. I like it. I think that Cam's got something to prove. He's with the best coach in the National Football League. I think they're going to do some good things. What's your feeling on Cam and the Patriots and him as a starting quarterback?
I mean, listen, when your teammates vote you captain, that means something, especially in an organization like New England, where it seems like that carries a little bit more weight. And again, it's the same thing we talked about with Clemson and Alabama, right? When you have that level of success, the things that come out of that organization seem to carry a little bit more weight because of the success that's been built behind it. So when Bill Belichick goes out of his way to do something that's fairly rare for his personality, when the entire team votes that, hey, Cam Newton's going to be our captain, that carries some weight. Now, again, that is a really friendly team deal. I think it was less than, $600,000, $700,000. And I know there's a ton of incentives in it too. It may end up being like $5-6 million, but he hasn't been healthy. And if he's healthy, Cam Newton is a dangerous quarterback in this league. That's been very apparent through a Super Bowl run, through regime changes, through a ton of personnel shifting in Carolina. And obviously over the injuries the last 2 years, the foot last year and the shoulder a couple of years ago. If he's healthy and if he stays as such, Gary, I have Carolina. I have Carolina. I've got Tampa Bay. I'm going to see these new organizations, see what Carolina looks like without Cam, what Tampa Bay looks like with New England's old quarterback. But the eyes of this league are still going to be on New England because of Cam Newton and because that division, the AFC East, is so wide open. And if Cam stays healthy, Gary, they could win the division almost easily. I'm not sure what to expect from Buffalo's offense. I don't know if the Bills can recreate what they did a year ago. I need to see a lot more from Sam Darnold before I feel comfortable. And Tua is unproven. He's a rookie. Now I have high hopes, as you do, for what we're going to see from him. I think he's a talented kid, and I think he's going to have a good run. But he's a rookie this year, so we don't have data to back it up. So I can see why people are excited about Cam, and they should still be excited to watch the Patriots. Even if it's not the New England we've known for the last 18, 19 years, it's still going to be a fascinating storyline to watch, and Cam's going to be one of the top 5 players in terms of intrigue in the NFL this year.
All right, Adam, as usual, we're running over, but I do want to get your reaction to what we saw last night with the Celtics and the Raptors. The Celtics have had Toronto's number. They're on the verge of going up 3-0 and putting the series away. They're up 2 with a half second to go, and like the guys on inside the NBA said, I don't understand why you're packing the lane there. A 3 can beat you, even if you do give up a fluke tip in or layup or something, you're going to overtime. They put Taco Fall on the ball, but Lowry made an unbelievable cross-court pass, and they lose the game because they allowed not a wide-open three-point shot. It was contested late, but how does that happen when you can only lose the game by giving up a 3 there, Adam?
I'm a little surprised, and I understand you put Taco on the ball, but he's a fairly inexperienced player in these ATO situations. I give a lot of credit to Nick Nurse. By the way, Brad Stevens and Nick Nurse might be the 2 best ATO guys in the league, and that's after timeouts. Like situational spots, they are as good as they come. Nick Nurse said that was an old QB Brown play that he picked up, and it was run to perfection. And again, OG Anunoby is not the guy you necessarily want taking that shot. There's also a lot of lightning in the bottle things that happened on that play. You know, Kyle Lowry I think the pass might have been better than the
Incredible.
shot. You know, that Lowry made. I mean, you couldn't have that. You want to talk about Tom Brady and Cam Newton, like you want to talk quarterbacking. That pass was better than the shot. He put it right into OG's shooting pocket. All OG could do was catch and shoot because there was only 5/10 left. You had to get it off. And you just kind of tip your cap at that point if you're the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens is as good as they come ATO, and Nick Nurse is too. And that was just one guy's play was better than the other guys, and the execution of it was better than the other teams. And that's the NBA, man. That is life in this league sometimes, and that is life in the playoffs, and it comes down to plays like that. And I don't think you would have had to do that much different. Yeah, I agree. Packing the lane is probably a mistake, but you're not expecting OG Anunoby to beat you out a 3-pointer from the corner. You're not expecting Kyle Lowry to make that pass. I just think you tip your cap to the Raptors because that sequence is one that they're going to remember for a long time. And if they go to the finals, that's going to be the sequence that got them there.
Absolutely. Now we have a series. Follow Adam on Twitter at Adam Amin and get ready to watch him on Fox's NFL coverage beginning on the 13th of September with the Falcons and the Seahawks in Atlanta. Thanks so much, Adam.
Thanks, my friend.
All right.